Hey, what is up guys, ShadowSteel here, and welcome to a how-to video that I have been meaning to actually put out recently. So, Transport Fever came out a couple weeks ago on November 8th, 2016. And as you can see, I've actually managed to build a successful transportation network in just trying to learn how to work the game. Well, today I'm going to actually show you how to actually do something like this, actually get a successful industry like this. First off, you'll need to find a relatively easy industry chain. Everything's set up in an industry chain. So farms like this will actually produce food, will produce livestock and grain to food. I lost my train of thought there. Hold on here. To food processing plants, which is over here. So naturally, there's also a few things that I'll explain later in the video about this stuff here. But naturally, the first kind of industries you'll want to ship to are either the oil industry, the crude oil industry, which are signified by this building here, and you ship it to a oil refinery here, which produces fuel, and this produces food. So let's go, and to complete the chain, you're actually going to need to actually connect up the entire line up into the city. So first off, you need to actually find the areas where where the food or fuel actually go to. So for Centralia here, I'll start with the fuel industry rather than the food, because I've done the food industry quite well. So the yellow area here is industry. What I'm going to do is actually finish up connecting the roads here, which will help in the long run. Okay. So you might want to actually do this just so you can actually keep everything in. Try and make everything reasonably put together. So we've connected all the streets there. Now, one person, like in Train Fever, it was recommended early on to start using trains as much as possible. But if you play this game in an early format, that might not be the best bet. So I'm gonna actually, even though I do have the ability to run these trains easily, there are actually two ways to go about doing this. So for instance, I have the ability to build a terminal here with two platforms. I can change it to high speed and have a gantry and a second street connection. Those all can be done on the fly here. Let's actually keep it a high speed line. And then we'll actually do this here, where we can actually have it as a single track. Now you use the N and M keys to flip your station around. That's kind of important, as if you start messing around with the street once everything gets going, you'll need to remember those keys, because in the dark you actually can mess up quite easily. Now we're gonna have to connect over here and over here. So to make things easier for me long term, we'll actually use two different ways of transporting. So I'll actually build about here. Now the upgrading system on the roads is actually different. You actually have to click this wand thing here, and it will upgrade the road accordingly. So we connected up our two routes there, and what we're going to do now is actually build our truck depot. What we're going to do is actually use this, and then With fuel, we just have to ship it here. And I'll explain this. I've explained this on Transport Tuesday about the soiling of the industries and stuff like that. Now we need to build a road depot, which I'll put here. And now all we have to do is connect up the line. Considering that this is a high-speed line, we'll go with high-speed trains as much as possible. I've already set it to miles per hour, so there's not much to worry about there. Whoops. Okay. So here's something interesting. Unlike the old train fever, you can actually do quite a bit with rail construction. And this road construction, rail and road construction are a lot different in how they are done in this game. For one, track construction is a lot more costly. The more money you spend on track and rail vehicles, it's actually quite difficult to manage. So here we go with a tunnel, our first little tunnel. And you've already noticed it's probably very expensive. So if you actually try to build a tunnel, it actually will cost you slightly a little bit of money. So I'm gonna actually build a tunnel that way because our line is actually over there. There's a bridge. So if we built that, that's actually going to cost us 5 mil just to actually get a parallel track, ironically. 5.101 million for just this line alone. But it's the quickest route, and that's what really counts in this game. Now I won't recommend doing this, mainly because I just have a ton of money. And already this might actually look... And doing that is actually very expensive long term. So, many of you probably will want to double track every line when you start constructing them. The reason being is that it actually, the more trains you set out, the higher the frequency of your trains leaving and departing, the better your production might end up becoming. Because you need a high production to actually warrant any money. Over time, you can actually change it to where it's a long, heavy train, and that train actually will earn you more money than what you're capable of now. So now we just have to set up the crossover over here. Now this is actually the tricky part here, because the crossovers tend to actually have an issue where they will say too much slope, and that's probably because of the fact that the line is actually sloping upward. There are ways to get around this though, and these little tricks are actually sometimes beneficial. See, there's again with the too much slope. Alright, so here's one way to get around it. We'll have to demolish the entire line. But if you want to do this, it's actually very beneficial. You can actually level the area out quite a bit. And then what you do, with that leveled area, you can actually connect up the track through there. But you need to be careful, as like in Train Fever, the slope is a very difficult thing to get around. So we now have that. Once again, reconnecting the entire line. Now again, you probably don't want to actually have any sort of cut-ins or tunnels or anything right off the bat, as the starting cash is about 3 million on easy, and probably less on certain levels. So again, we're going to need to do that. There we go. So now that you see that out of the way, we'll go all the way over here and do the same here. With high-speed lines, you also have to make sure your crossover is extremely long. That way you can actually deal with the amount of track you need. Now on to part 2 of actually making this line, and that is to actually connect the entire line here with a depot. Now notice that the track now right here is crossed over. That was not possible in Train Fever, and I've actually explained and there's actually been ways to get around that on Train Fever. Now the game still, as of now, is still pretty early in the it's still being worked on a bit, but you want to make sure that you actually keep everything under control. Okay. There we go. So with that all out of the way, I'm actually gonna pause that. So with this all connected, you got the train section. You go here, and once again, just rotate the depot and place it there. And now this is where I actually have to pause the video, stop recording, and then come back to you once I get everything done, signaling wise. Alright, we're back. So now that I've got the line signaled, as you can see, we're going to go ahead and start building the train first. This will be the most costly part of the build. I'm going to be using the big boy, so we'll be using that. And we're going to be using the tank cars carrying crude. So at first you won't need much. And in 1850, which is when you should probably start this right about, the locomotive shouldn't be too much of a problem. So we'll go back to him later. I paused the game for a little bit so I can show you, so I will be able to show you a feature later. So now we go to our buy road vehicles. We're actually going to build a crude truck. I mean, not a crude oil truck, a fuel truck, and we're going to paint it. This is actually a new feature in the game. You can actually paint your vehicles according to the line, or depending on what you want. So there we go. So now that we have those two out of the way, I'm going to go back to my train, and we're going to finish this video off with actually kind of an interesting little feature of Transport Fever. So first off, here's the big boy in all its glory. Very decently looking, actually. So now, there's a little camera button here on the corner. You click that, you're actually given a first-person perspective of the line. And, as a result, I will go ahead and focus, let you guys see the video without me interfering. Alright, so with that out of the way, you now have a quick word of warning about something like this. Sorry. Is that once a line like this starts to become profitable, try and be careful. Any sort of line that actually ends up outdoing its own, actually has multiple connections to the same spot, it will try and go for the shortest route and sometimes even the cheapest route. So for instance, this route here, Rayleigh Goods, Road 1, is actually a lot more successful than a rail line that I built earlier in the game, which is connected through here. And as a result, goods stopped being sent over to the station, on the train station, and in turn went to the truck depot. As a result, this little production facility actually went down in production. However, there are certain trains and industries where sometimes that is actually warranted, because of the fact that multiple towns can be served if they're relatively close. Say for instance this food processing plant here. It has a production limit of 800 and is producing 636 in production, in units. Most of those are being sent to Waco Food, which is being sent via train. Somewhere, if I could figure out where it went. Where is that train? Oh, he just arrived. So here's our little train of Waco Food. You see how he's being he has way too much? You're going to need to upgrade it. We're actually going to need to add more cars to him or upgrade the train itself. Now, I will show you guys that in a later video. But for now, like and comment down below, and subscribe if you want more, and I will see you guys in the next video.